It was exactly 2:17 a.m. when Lucas heard the phone ring, but it wasn't his smartphone buzzing on the nightstand. No, this was a sound he hadn't heard in years. The shrill, piercing ring of the old landline phone in the hallway, the one that hadn't been plugged into the wall since he moved in. The sound echoed through the silent apartment, slow and unnatural, each ring stretching out, pulling the quiet air taut. Lucas lay frozen in his bed, his eyes wide, staring at the dark hallway where the phone continued its impossible summons. One ring, two, three. A cold dread crept up his spine. Who could be calling? How could they be calling? After the fifth ring, a strange compulsion took over. He swung his legs out of bed, the floorboards cold beneath his feet, and walked toward the sound. The old rotary phone sat on a dusty end table, its plastic body vibrating with each ring. His hand trembled as he reached for the receiver, the cool, smooth plastic feeling alien in his grasp. He lifted it to his ear. At first, there was only silence, a deep, heavy static that felt like it was swallowing all other sound. Then he heard it, breathing, slow, uneven, a ragged gasp on the other end of the line. A voice, barely a whisper, finally broke the silence. It whispered his name. Lucas. A chill ran down his arm. The voice was familiar, frighteningly so. Before he could respond, it spoke again, urgent and strained. Hang up, don't stay there. His heart began to pound against his ribs, a frantic drum beat in the dead of night. Who is this? He managed to ask, his own voice hoarse. There was a long pause, filled with that same ragged breathing. Then the voice answered so quietly he almost missed it. It's you. From tomorrow. And just like that, the line went dead. The silence that followed was somehow louder, more terrifying than the ringing had been. Lucas stood there for a long time, the dead receiver still pressed to his ear. The next morning, exhausted and on edge, Lucas finally checked his smartphone. His screen was filled with notifications, dozens of missed calls. He scrolled through the log, his blood running cold. Every single one of them was from his own number. He dropped the phone on the bed as if it had burned him. From that day on, Lucas never answered another call again. You never know who might be on the other end. Or rather, when. Emma discovered the man by accident. She was sitting at her desk late one night, scrolling through folders of old family photos she had just digitized. It was a trip down memory lane, birthdays, holidays, beach vacations. But then she saw him, in a picture from her 5th birthday party. Just behind the colorful chaos of kids and balloons stood a man she didn't recognize. He was far in the background, partially obscured, but his eyes were fixed on the camera. She brushed it off as a random stranger, a guest she'd forgotten. But a wave of unease made her open another album. A family trip to the Grand Canyon, taken when she was 10. And there he was again, standing on a distant overlook, a tiny figure against the vast landscape. She zoomed in. The same face, the same unnerving stare. Her heart started to pound. Frantically, she clicked through dozens of photos. A high school graduation, her first day of college, different years, different cities, different moments of her life. He was in every single one, always in the distance, always slightly out of focus, a ghostly presence that had shadowed her entire existence. Who was this man? The next morning, her hands trembling, she showed the photos to her parents. She expected them to laugh, to offer a simple explanation, but they didn't. Her mother's face turned ashen, her smile vanishing completely. Her father's expression hardened. Without a word, he reached over and slammed the laptop shut, the click echoing in the sudden heavy silence. They refused to talk about it, leaving Emma alone with her mounting terror. That night, sleep was impossible. She tossed and turned. The image of the man burned into her mind. Just as she was about to drift into a restless doze, her phone screen lit up on the nightstand. A notification. A new photo had been added to her gallery. Her blood ran cold. She hadn't taken any photos. With a shaking finger, she unlocked her phone. The image that loaded was her own bedroom, her own bed. It was taken from above, from the dark corner of the ceiling, and standing right beside her, where she was lying at that very moment, was the man. He was no longer far away. He was no longer blurred. He was there, looking down at her, and his face was finally terrifyingly clear. Have you ever heard a sound in the middle of the night that just doesn't belong? A noise that sends a shiver right down your spine because you know something is wrong? For the residents of a small, forgotten town, that sound was a train. Every single night, at precisely 11:42 p.m., a train would rumble through the old abandoned station. It was always a strange sight. The carriages were dark with no lights on inside. There were never any passengers visible through the dusty windows, just the eerie, screeching sound of metal grinding against ancient, rusty tracks. It was a phantom, a ghost on rails. No one knew its origin or its destination. It was just there, a nightly reminder of something unseen and unknown. Most people learned to ignore it, to pull their blankets tighter and pretend it was just the wind. But not Mark. He was a curious soul, maybe a little too curious for his own good. The mystery of the ghost train gnawed at him. Where did it come from? Who or what was on board? The questions kept him awake far more than the noise ever did. So one night, fueled by a mix of bravery and foolishness, Mark decided he had to know the truth. He packed a small bag, grabbed a flashlight, and headed down to the deserted platform to wait. The air was cold and still. The only sound was the distant chirping of crickets. Mark checked his watch. 11:40 p.m. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest. 2 minutes felt like an eternity. Then, right on schedule, he heard it. That familiar, blood-chilling screech growing louder and louder as the train approached from the darkness. But this time was different. Instead of thundering past as it always did, the train began to slow down. With a final, deafening squeal of brakes, it came to a complete stop right in front of him. For the first time, Mark saw the train up close. It was old, covered in rust and grime, looking like it had been dredged from the bottom of a lake. Then, with a pneumatic hiss that made him jump, a set of doors slid open, revealing the carriage's interior. A dim, sickly yellow light glowed from within. Inside, the train was full of people. Dozens of them, sitting perfectly still in their seats, staring straight ahead. Their skin was unnaturally pale, almost translucent, and their eyes were wide, empty, and lifeless. None of them moved. None of them even seemed to be breathing. A cold dread washed over Mark, rooting him to the spot. Just as he was about to turn and run, a figure emerged from the shadows near the door. It was a conductor, dressed in a tattered old uniform. He leaned out, his face a mask of shadows, and looked directly at Mark. His voice was a dry, raspy whisper that seemed to echo from a great distance. "You missed your stop," he said. Before Mark could process the words, the doors hissed shut. The train lurched forward, gaining speed with impossible quickness, and vanished into the black mouth of the tunnel. The next morning, the sun rose on an empty field. The station, the tracks, everything was gone, and so was Mark. Have you ever stumbled upon a corner of the internet that just felt wrong? Imagine this. A strange forum appears online, seemingly overnight. No name, no description, just a single cryptic post. It reads, "If you are reading this, you are already too late." At first, everyone thought it was a joke, a clever prank, or maybe the start of a new online game. People started replying, playing along with the eerie premise. But then the replies took a chilling turn. One user wrote, "I think I hear breathing right behind me." Another posted, "I just looked in the mirror." My reflection smiled, but I didn't. The fear started to feel real. Someone else frantically typed that their door was now locked from the outside. The replies grew more and more desperate, and then, one by one, the accounts went silent. First, the person who heard breathing, then the one with the smiling reflection. Soon all the active participants stopped responding completely. The digital silence was deafening. After exactly 24 hours, the forum vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared. The page was blank, wiped clean from the web. But just before it disappeared, one final message was posted. It said, "Thank you for participating." Here's the truly terrifying part. This message was not from a single moderator or a mysterious administrator. It was posted from millions of accounts simultaneously, every single account that had ever viewed the forum, including yours. Now, some people will tell you this is just a creepy story, a modern urban legend for the digital age, something to share around a virtual campfire. Others, however, believe it's a warning. They say these forums are tests, or worse, traps. So as you listen to this, if any part of this story sent a shiver down your spine, if any of it felt disturbingly familiar, maybe you should be a little more careful the next time you browse online. You might already be part of the next one. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more strange tales from the web. Sleep well.